Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Golden Astrologer Podcast. This is Deb McBride, and I am recording this in beautiful Escazú, Costa Rica on Sunday, June 16th, which is Father's Day here in Costa Rica and in the U.S., and I'm not sure where else. I don't know if it's a global thing or a local thing, but today is June 16th, and we have Venus talking to Neptune in a square. And what's happening is that Venus, the goddess, and I mentioned this last week, she is in a little bit of stress with Neptune. Now, they are somewhat similar because Neptune is considered the higher octave of Venus, but Neptune is in Pisces and Venus is in Gemini, and she's thinking about all things, mentally stimulating, intellectual, and Neptune's in Pisces thinking about all things spiritual, or not thinking, sensing and feeling all things spiritual, while Venus is in the realm of thought and analysis. And it's interesting because obviously they are in two different places. Venus, though, is just about ready to enter Cancer, and Neptune is very, very, very close to the end of Pisces. So we are in this 29-degree moment, and that's a big deal, okay? Well, let me tell you why. Venus at 29 degrees Gemini is about to go into the sign of Cancer. And she's going to do that tomorrow, okay? Or depending on where you live, she's going to do that maybe late tonight. But she's going to do that at 2:20 a.m. Eastern Time, Monday morning. And so she's on the verge of entering a new sign. Then she's making a square to Neptune, an outer planet, which is also 29 degrees, 52 minutes, tippy toe right before it goes into the sign of Aries, but it's not going to go into Aries just yet. And that's what's making Neptune so interesting and this whole dynamic so interesting. Neptune is at the very end of Pisces, and Neptune's only going to move slightly more before it turns around and goes retrograde. It gets to the edge before the Aries sign starts. It is moments away, and it's going to say, nope, not going to Aries yet, going backwards. And then it won't go into Aries till next year. So we're in this is a moment of shifting. So we're going from a Venus that is intellectual and analytical and thinking and talking to one that is quiet and emotional and sensing and putting her energies into more domestic matters and more home-based matters and more things that are very much not intellectual matters. They're sensing and feeling and quiet. Cancer is not a sign that speaks up a lot and tells you everything the way Gemini does. They're quiet. You have to almost guess what they're thinking, what they're feeling. Sometimes they can't describe it because it defies language because it is water. It's emotion. In meantime, Neptune is at this moment where it's very much at the end of the zodiac, very much at the turning point before it becomes a whole new zodiac. And it's not going there. It's lingering and hovering in this end of the zodiac area. And it's in a very watery place, very watery. Now, what happens? Okay, so remember what I talked about last week, that Pluto is in this transition, and we, as a result, are in this big transition. But Venus and Neptune are sort of triggering this whole transition because they're at 29 degrees. Pluto and Neptune are speaking to each other rather nicely in a sextile. Venus is in a little bit of a needling aspect in an inconjunct. But ultimately, because they are at 29 degrees, and let me get to Mercury in a moment or two, they are at 29 degrees, our hairs stand up on the back of our neck, our back goes up, our claws come out, our bells ring in our sleep, and it's like, what is this? What's going on? because we're getting triggered. These are triggers. And while they are not entirely talking to Pluto in a very direct, harsh way, it's not like a square or something like we had that Mars-Pluto square the other day, which brought all of this up again. They are elaborating on the conversation. They are expanding the notion of what all of this means. Now, Neptune is in a particularly powerful place because it is at the very last moments of the zodiac. And Neptune is the planet of faith, in the sign of faith, its own sign, Pisces. And when it does this whole little dance at the end of Pisces, and it sits there and turns around on July 1st, it's going to get to 29 degrees of 56 minutes, okay? It's going to sit there at this place at the end of the zodiac, and then it is going to turn around. And it's going to, what we call, refrain from progressing into Aries, moving into Aries. It's not going to do that until next year, which means we're left, when you watch one of those series and you've got a cliffhanger and it comes back next year, and it's on Netflix, or like when I used to watch Mad Men, and it's like, oh my God, they're leaving us like this, and how is it going to start again, and when is it coming back? Not for another year? What? And you have to wait. It's not like the old days where they left you in a cliffhanger, and a few months later, they left you in June with a cliffhanger and you started again in September. No, this is the cliffhanger of, oh, wait a minute, the story isn't going to continue till next year. Okay, so Neptune is at the moment of surrender in the zodiac, the moment of great surrender. Okay, it's going to get to 29 degrees 56 minutes, which is 4 minutes away from Aries. Now, any other planet would just cruise on in to Aries, but because it's slow and because it's about to retrograde July 1st, it's going to leave us hanging with a story that doesn't finish until next year. And then there's going to be more of that, but we'll talk about that next year. Right now, we are at a moment of deep surrender, transition, and kind of holding on for dear life and not knowing what's going to be around the corner. This is extremely powerful. This is very unusual. Things are so much about to turn into the next phase of our lives, and that we are not going to find out about what's coming for a while yet, but we feel it. We know it. And now we don't have just one outer planet making a transition from one sign to another. We have two. So this is not normal. This is not a simple transit of a planet. This is some big time stuff. And if you have things at 29 degrees in your chart, and you have things at 0 degrees in your chart, any sign, that could be any planet, any sign, anywhere. That could be the moon at 0 Capricorn, okay? That could be, Mars at 29 Scorpio, okay? That could be anything. You are going to feel this. Why? Because it's like resonating like a tuning fork. So the tuning fork within you is going to get triggered by the fact that Neptune is at 29 and going to hang out there and leave us on this cliff. And then Pluto's going to move back to 29 in a few months. So we are on the precipice of powerful, powerful change in the world, in our lives. At the very core of our lives, we are on the verge of change. When an outer planet, and we had this a bunch of years ago with Uranus, when an outer planet leaves the end of the zodiac and then goes to the next phase into Aries, we're starting all over again. And Neptune's journey is going to start all over again next year. But Neptune is the planet of spirituality, faith, surrender, deep belief, deep connection to spirit, what we believe in, what we don't believe in, what is real, what is not. Is it real? Is it not? And sometimes Neptune does this to us. We're in a phase of Neptune where maybe we're getting a Neptune transit to something important in our chart, and we are feeling like we don't know if it's real or not. I don't know whether to trust this or not. And so this is so profound for each of us, because if we start to really go deep into this, first of all, Pluto in and of itself doing this little dance back and forth, and this last dance coming between September and November, that alone shakes up the whole foundations of our lives. Okay? It shakes up the collective unconscious. It shakes up, yesteryear versus today. It shakes up a lot of things that we may or may not want to change. And that's why, my teacher used to call this death anxiety. These were outer planets change signs. There's this rhythm of death anxiety because there's a big change coming. Once we get over the hump, we're fine. We move into the new place, and then, that all looks like yesteryear, right? Remember the 90s, whatever. It's, remember the music, everything's different. The styles are different. The fashion's different. The music's different. Everything's different. We work differently. So we are saying goodbye with Pluto to Capricorn one last time, like I said, September to November. And then we're going to say goodbye to Neptune and Pisces, not just yet, but it's going to make it feel like we are in these next weeks. So this is too much to handle. This is too much. This is a powerful, powerful shift that is asking us to really trust in something profound and deep. And Venus is just triggering the whole thing. And then tomorrow, our friend Mercury will do the same, because Mercury is going to square Neptune at 3:41 a.m., okay? And right after that, enter the sign of Cancer. So it'll go in at 5:07 a.m. So tomorrow, like what we've got going into, and depending on where you are, it might be afternoon where you are on the other side of the globe, what's going to happen is Venus is going to enter Cancer, Mercury is going to square Neptune, and then it's going to enter Cancer, and then they're going to conjunct. So they're going to be together in the sign of Cancer. But right now, they're looping around that 29-degree thing, making us feel like we're losing something. We are having to let go of something, maybe something we don't want to let go of, maybe something we don't want to release. Maybe we want to hold on. I said before, holding on for dear life. Don't even think that this isn't affecting you on some level. It'll come out in your sleep. It'll come out in your dialogues. It'll come out when you least expect it. It'll come out in a way that I didn't mean to say that, but I did. Those kinds of things. And it may feel like your metabolism's changing. Maybe it is. It'll feel like your life is changing, but you don't know how. You don't know how to put your finger on it, but it's changing. And you do not want to underestimate this, okay? When you feel like you're going through some big change and transformation and you need to go lie down or go for a walk or something, listen to your body. Listen to your body during this time. Listen to your heart. Listen to your body. Listen to your mind. Listen to your deepest callings within yourself, okay? This is something that it's really so important for us to acknowledge and embrace, understand. That's why I'm here, to help you understand that we're letting go of like an old paradigm in a major way. And you have to just sort of embrace it and allow this to happen in your life. Make journal notes about it. Notice it. Have conversations with friends about it. You see, the world is changing. The life is changing. I understand there's a lot going on in the world. There always is a lot going on in the world. There always is. But in your backyard, there's stuff going on. In your own unconscious, write down your dreams. Write down your experience of what this feels like on a deep level. Okay? It doesn't feel secure. It doesn't feel comforting. These are things that we are looking for on a regular basis, and there may not be a sense of comfort right now. Okay, because we've got some very erratic planets in the sign of Taurus where we like our comfort. Mars and Uranus are there. And they're going to get together in July, but that's not for a while yet. In the meantime, we have to stay very grounded. Now, the last time I said we had a planet leaving Pisces and going into Aries was 2011. That was Uranus. And it may have felt like a very major shift. And it was. There were a lot of things that ended and began anew at that point in time. But this is two planets. Pluto's going to finish up its situation in Capricorn this year, and Neptune is going to refrain from going to Aries, but it's very, very, very close to leaving Pisces. Next year, it will leave Pisces with Saturn. So Saturn will get to the end of Pisces as well, and we'll have two planets then. So we're in some deep changes. We're in some deep transformations. We're in deep letting go of the old and bringing in the new. Venus, Mercury, they're going to shift now into the sign of Cancer. And that's going to be a little more comforting for us, okay? Venus likes being in Cancer. That's sweet. It will be a different dynamic for sure. But both planets are going to move tomorrow, and then they will conjunct at 8:43 a.m. Eastern Time tomorrow. So this is a Venus-Mercury conjunction, Venus being love and beauty and art, Mercury being dialogue, communication, thinking, thought. Mercury will now get out of its own sign of Gemini and now enter Cancer, which is a sign that does not talk a lot. It's a water sign, like I said earlier. It feels. So again, pay attention to your emotions, your feelings. How do you feel about all of this? It may feel very, a little bit brooding, a little bit quiet, a little bit, I want to be left alone. I have to process all of this. Go ahead, process. This is a big turning point. Process all you need, all you want. Do what you need to do. It's very intense, very intense. And the more things hit 29, of course, in the next bunch of hours, the moon is going to hit 29 in like the wee hours of the night, because the moon is at 26 Libra now as I speak. And this is going to then be another planet at 29. It'll be speaking nicely to Mercury and Venus as they move out of Gemini into Cancer. But they're all at the end of something. And so every time there's a 29-degree emphasis, that means we're closing the door and opening the next door. And it's going to keep reminding us that Neptune and Pluto are both getting ready to close doors on one area of the zodiac and open another one. So we're going to get triggered. Now, triggered is a lot of things. Triggered can be anger. Triggered can be sadness. Triggered can be I want to end this relationship abruptly, and that might not be the right idea. Triggered is something that we need to get a handle on, get our hands around. Do not be impulsive. There's a desire to escape when it's like this. There's a desire to run away. We have to get through it. We have to. It's the ending of something. And you've got to be positive and present for the new beginning, because it's going to be amazing. It's going to be something new. Neptune in Aries seems weird to me. We've never lived through that. It's been 168 years. We're going to get to see something new. Neptune it belongs in Pisces. It's really sensitive, water, faith-oriented. And then Aries is very warlike, Neptune, maybe it will calm down things going on the earth. So now, later in the week, on Thursday, is the summer solstice in the northern hemisphere, and it's the winter solstice in the southern hemisphere. But this is when the sun enters the sign of Cancer. And the sun entering the sign of Cancer is following Venus and Mercury. So that means the three of them sit in sort of a conjunction right now. The sun's a little bit behind, but now the sun is going to do the same things that Venus and Mercury are doing. So the sun is also moving towards this 29-degree thing in Gemini, and it's going to square Neptune on Thursday afternoon at 2:12 p.m., and that is Eastern Time. So we've got the sun following in the footsteps of Mercury and Venus. So we've got some transitions this week, and once again, the sun, our life force, will hit that 29 degrees. And it will square Neptune at 29 degrees, and it's going to give us more of the same dynamics, more of the same triggers, maybe highlighting, because it's the sun, and enlightening us to what is it exactly that we're changing and shifting in our lives, what we're letting go of, where the big release is, and what's next for us. So what is next for us? What's going to happen for each and every one of us? There's going to be something we let go of, something we leave behind. And, like I said, we're not entirely at that moment where Neptune is going to make the same change as Pluto. It's not going to go ahead into the next sign. But the sun is taking us to remind us of this transition that we're experiencing. That Neptune, being squared by the sun, is at this point of surrender, of atonement, of letting go, of releasing, and also having incredible faith. It's like the Fool card in the tarot. He's stepping off the cliff. He doesn't know what's there. And while we may not be literally stepping off a cliff, we have to believe that we're going to be okay. And we have to believe in all our deepest senses that we are going to be fine, and that the right healing will come, Neptune at the end of Pisces, that the right moments of transition are the right things for our lives, and that we're going to be taken to something different and the next chapter, and hopefully better. We have to put our faith in something right now. Not having any faith in anything is not going to do you any favors. Unconsciously, we will act out. Unconsciously, we will hurt things, people, stuff. Unconsciously, we are not knowing what this turn of events is. Unconsciously, we just want to protect ourselves. But this is a major turning point. Then when the sun goes into Cancer, and then tomorrow we have this Venus and Mercury in Cancer, everybody's at 0 degrees. They are at the cardinal axis, otherwise known as the world axis. This is the point in the zodiac, one of the points in the zodiac, that is where famous things happen, where big events happen, where famous people have planets. You meet people and they have planets at 0 degrees of the cardinal axis, and that's Aries, Libra, Capricorn, Cancer, and they are either famous themselves, or they rub shoulders with famous people, or they are dealing with famous cases or people in their lives every day in their work. But that's the nature of that 0 degrees. So this is something we want to pay attention to. There may be a lot of news flying around these next few days, and things usually happen. Big things at 0 degrees cardinal, usually big things happen that make the news. So there may be a lot of news this week. Okay, this isn't just, it's beginning of summer up in the Northern Hemisphere. Maybe there's going to be some news. That is a huge amount of energy at the one point. Okay, that's a huge amount of it. That's 3 planets, each passing over this cardinal axis, and 2 of them are meeting up together at that point. So this is, look for news this week. Look for things that are provoking big stories in your life and in the world. Then on Friday the 21st, we have a full moon. So no sooner does the sun enter the sign of Cancer at 4:51 p.m. Thursday Eastern Time, than a day later at 9:08 p.m. on Friday the 21st, that's Eastern Time, the moon opposes the sun. The moon has gone into Capricorn, and here we are. The moon will hit that 0 degrees cardinal axis on the evening of Friday, and it will oppose the sun. So this is a full moon at this 1 degree Capricorn point, right after everything's at the cardinal axis. So that full moon is going to be opposed the next day by Mercury and Venus, and how they just keep talking to each other. The sun, Venus, Mercury, the moon, everything is sort of in this conversation. So we're looking for some fresh energy. We're going to get triggered. We are going to need to remember that this is this is going on, in that if you feel uncomfortable, that you're in the right place. But you should be really paying attention to what is changing in your life, what you want to change, what you don't want to come back to, where you want to be free of something that has stayed in your life a really long time and you're done with it. And then the moon will move from Capricorn into Aquarius, just like Pluto's doing. And that's going to happen, between Saturday and Sunday. So that's that whole experience of the moon leaving, this place of Capricorn where Pluto has been for the last 15 years, almost 16 years. And then it's going to go into Aquarius, and it's going to greet Pluto in Aquarius late next Sunday night, the 23rd. So this is a lot of shifting and changing. When the moon moves over this point that Pluto is visiting at this moment, the moon is triggering that whole thing too. So that whole transition gets triggered on and on and on. And this is why I wanted to bring it to everyone's attention, because remember, we're in this and we're moving through something. And I have people coming and saying, hey, wow, what's going on? What's going on? I feel something. What's going on? And last week, when I talked about how that Sun Venus that was supposed to be so beautiful triggered Pluto, and we didn't really expect that, and I had to bring it to everyone's attention. Yeah, I got people contacting me, several bunches of people contacting me about that. And I appreciate people reaching out. And I'm glad you found resonance in it, because there's going to be more resonance in these next days. Tonight, tomorrow, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, there's going to be this resonance. And so just keep remembering, if you say, I want to just be feel like myself again, because you don't feel like yourself, because you don't recognize what's going on, because this feels uncomfortable and weird, and why don't I feel like myself? Remember that this is something that we are all going through, and it's not going to last forever. It's going to shift and change, and the big one is this year. We'll worry about Saturn and Neptune next year, okay? That's a long way away. But Neptune is saying, hey, me too. Guess what? And the thing that I have to reiterate is, if we don't have faith now in something in our lives, it may be our own creativity, it may be our family, it may be something spiritual, but in yourself, we've got to have faith in ourselves, and we have to believe that, the next phase of our lives is going to be better than these last phases, okay? Like I've said before, I think Pluto in Capricorn was dark. And we're now moving away from those degrees of where COVID was. We're moving away from the experience of 2020 and 2021. We're moving away from all of that into something different. It's a different dialogue. It's a different mindset. It's a different energetic feeling. And we are leaving that stuff behind. Yes, it's imprinted and tattooed on everyone's brain because of what went on, but we are really moving into something completely energetically a different dynamic, okay? Aquarius is really about liberation, revolution, freedom, and independence. There's a desire for utopia. And we're going to be searching for that once we get this Pluto the heck out of Capricorn later this year. There's going to be one last hurrah. I expect that. And then we're going to move into Aquarius, and that's it. We're done. But in the meantime, we are, hey, when you've got growing pains, when you're a kid. When you're not comfortable and you're awkward. You know what it's like to transition into adolescence and then transition to adulthood. That's all awkward, right? That's all uncomfortable. That's what we're doing now. We're transitioning to something deeper, more profound, something a little more erratic, but very exciting. Venus is going to trigger Pluto. Mercury is going to trigger Pluto. They're doing this between Monday and Tuesday in the evening, in the night. And then the sun will follow suit. It will do the same thing and trigger Pluto. These are from the inconjunct. The sun will trigger next Saturday, but they're from the inconjunct, that needling aspect I talked about every now and again. Once these planets enter the sign of Cancer, they're going to trigger Pluto in Aquarius. Okay, so we're now getting this Aquarius-Cancer dynamic. They're very different signs, but interestingly enough, Aquarius and Cancer are always finding each other in their lives together. So Cancer is all about the emotions, the feelings, the sensitivity, the domestic life, the family, the clan. And Aquarius is all about liberation, freedom. No, I don't need to spend the weekend with my family. Thank you very much. It's a very different energy. It's much more verbal. It's much more analytical. It does get accused of being cold once in a while because it's not warm and fuzzy always, unless, you're like me and you're an Aquarius with Venus and Pisces and a big dose of Neptune. So there is a lot to be said between that dynamic of everything going into Cancer and then triggering the Pluto. So we've got a lot to unpack this week. We've got a lot to walk through this week. We have to acknowledge a lot of what we're experiencing. If you look back at your life from now, okay, so we're in mid-June. If you look at where you were in March, I can guarantee you it's very different. I can guarantee you the energy, the vibe is very different. I'm certain it's different from like the beginning of the year when you started this year with January. I'm certain of that. Allow the transition, allow the change, allow the transformation, because that's what this really is at its core, a very deep, profound transformation. Speaking of transformation, next weekend, I've been alerted to next weekend that Dr. Joe Dispenza is going to be presenting his film, Source It's Within You, free online to watch, his documentary about his medical research and the effects of meditation on people's different health-related situations. So I highly recommend watching it. I'm going to watch it. You have to go to sourcethefilm.org or just type in Source It's Within You. It is on his Instagram page. He's talking about it a lot. It's going to be available just for 3 days, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, to watch for free, and I highly recommend it. I'll be watching. I'm going to try to get everybody together here to watch it. It's going to be really amazing. He is talking about how people have been affected by the meditation, by all their measurements that they do in their retreats that he has. He's got a medical team that works with him, so this is true scientific research on meditation. So it sounds really exciting, and I'm looking forward to it. In the meantime, if you would like to work with me, you are most welcome to do that. You can work with me in astrology. You can set up an astrology appointment, go to my website, thegoldenastrologer.com, and click on book online. And you can choose a variety of appointments, astrology or Reiki, rainbow crystal Reiki, which is wonderful. And also join me in expansion mentoring. I would love to work with you on a regular basis for 3, 6, or 12 months. So if you're interested in that and you want more information, just contact me, deb@debmcbride.com, or info@thegoldenastrologer.com. Lots going on this week. Lots of transition, lots of transformation, lots of getting through some uncomfortable energies, but we're all going to do this together, okay? If you need support, reach out. I'm here. That's what I do. Thank you so much for listening. A beautiful week to all of you. Much gratitude to each and every one of you.